A Roman Catholic priest has administered the last sacraments of the church to the president. That sacrament was administered shortly before 1 o'clock.
It feels like they become calm, they become mindfulness, everything's all right, everything's brighter.
This project, almost by accident, allows us to use remote viewing to address the afterlife issue. And that is arguably the ultimate question.
Throughout time, humans have wondered about an enigma that each of us will ultimately face. What happens when our physical bodies die? Does consciousness continue? Where do we go?
This project was one of the most interesting I have ever worked. Not only did I get to experience the JFK assassination from very close up, I also, for the very first time in all my remote viewing history, managed to follow a life as he transitioned through the death experience and to something else beyond.
In the course of a documented blind-controlled remote viewing project recorded live on camera, remote viewer Daz Smith followed an event to its transformative conclusion, a stream in consciousness that allowed him to glimpse into the afterlife, the moment that John F. Kennedy died. Daz Smith is a web designer and graphic artist who lives in Somerset, England. For 2 decades, he has explored human consciousness using a technique known as remote viewing. Daz publishes a magazine that chronicles this amazing human skill. He has written books on the subject, and he has taken part in scientific studies and public presentations that demonstrate remote viewing. This is the story of how he followed John F. Kennedy at his moment of death.
It's almost like you can see time in slow motion there for a short period, only a few seconds.
No remote viewer sets out intentionally with a conscious decision to seek out such a target. Remote viewing is always conducted blind, meaning that when he sits down to start working, the viewer has absolutely no knowledge of the target at hand. The viewer can only follow the target that is given to him.
Remote viewing is a trainable mental procedure that was originally developed by the United States military and used for espionage purposes. We at Farsight are civilian, and we use these procedures or methods that are derivative of those original military methodologies to train remote viewers to transfer perceptual information across time and space in complete violation of the classical laws of physics.
We always work these targets blind, and that comes with some problems from the remote viewer, because during the remote viewing session there's a part of you internally that's always questioning the data that you get. It's always asking questions and trying to come up with a solution. We call this analytical overlays, and what we do is we move that to the side and we try to get past that. But there are always nagging questions that come up in your mind as remote viewers, and it's with time and experience that you manage to put these to one side a little bit better and to move on to almost ignore them. But ignoring is not the right word really, because within these guesses are great pieces of information, not always correct, but good information anyway. So we just put them to one side and move on.
Remote viewing is a term coined in the late 1970s. It was developed and used by the U.S. military as a secret intelligence gathering tool, but the phenomena itself is actually as old as human consciousness.
Remote viewing really tells us a lot about what it means to be human. First of all, it tells us that we really don't understand human psychology almost at all. We're composite beings. Obviously, since remote viewing can work, a person extends beyond time and space already. And that when the physical body dies, obviously that element of us that is extending through time and space is still there. So the 5 physical senses, hearing, touch, sight, taste, and smell, are not the limits of what it is to perceive something as a human. So what we really are learning about what it means to be human is that the physical orientation that mainstream science currently has about human existence, human life, is really just the beginning. So the window that we have to better understand the total human condition starts with the acknowledgement that the remote viewing phenomenon is real.
Dr. Courtney Brown is the director of the Farsight Institute, a nonprofit research organization that studies remote viewing and its application. Dr. Brown prepared the target and managed the work on the JFK Assassination project, which was documented in a two-part video released in late 2015. Following Kennedy at the moment of death was not intended as part of the original tasking.
The purpose of the John F. Kennedy Assassination project had nothing to do with the afterlife of John F. Kennedy. It was totally a whodunit. Who shot John F. Kennedy and why?
I can see the angles on it. It feels kind of like boxy and large. And here's our life. You know, it's moving along. It feels like it's moving. It feels like it's moving along. Not. It doesn't feel super fast. It's just moving along. And then all of a sudden, I feel this motion energy, and it kind of comes out of nowhere. It's kind of like surprise. And this is explosive here. I want to say explosive motion energy. It comes from two different places.
There seemed to be a roadway off to my left.
In their blind remote viewing, Daz Smith and Dick Allgire both perceived teams of snipers at different locations and reported that high-level covert and government officials planned the assassination.
All remote viewing is done totally blind at the Farsight Institute. In the case of the John F. Kennedy assassination, each remote viewer, Dick Allgire and Daz Smith, got a non-leading email from me that said, there is a target, remote view it, send me the stuff. That's it.
The Farsight Institute published 2 videos documenting this work. The viewers work alone, with no monitoring, no guidance or communication, in a process that can take weeks or months from tasking to final feedback.
Second team over there.
Now, when you're watching Daz Smith do his remote viewing on video, prior to that, there was a paper session where he sat down at a desk and using a pen and a paper did a remote viewing session. That is a warm-up to the video session.
I knew it was different right from the very start, because very early on in the sessions, I had these little ideograms, and ideograms are very simple gestalt sketches. And these ideograms and the probing of this seemed to indicate right off the bat, which I had to AOL and put to one side, was information that this involved a passenger. And this wasn't just a passenger in a vehicle. It felt like a passenger being a person that was moving along in an event, but an event that they had no control over. You know, they weren't in the driving seat of this event. They were in the passenger, and they were just, yes. So it was a duality of the word passenger, a passenger in a vehicle, but also a passenger that was involved in something that was unfolding around them, and they just had to go with the flow.
For the JFK project, Daz used his remote viewing method to produce 2 preliminary sessions with pen and paper, and then continued the sessions on camera, recording his perceptions live at a dry erase board.
Long term. We've moved on to doing live recorded video sessions on whiteboards. Now, I have to be honest, when Courtney first approached me with this idea, I was a bit skeptical. You know, for nearly 2 decades now, I've been doing the traditional way of doing remote viewing on paper with pens. But it's been a revelation to me, really. The process of working on a whiteboard seems to work like the stage 6 process of CRV, whereas you're using your hands and your entire body in a process of moving. And I feel this happens just as well using a whiteboard. It becomes a kinesthetic kind of feeling to the process. As you're moving about, as you're moving around on the whiteboard, writing words and the expressions as they come to you, it feeds the process, and more data kind of flows through that process. Powerful.
Once the video is rolling, the viewer settles in and follows the structure of his own methodology, focusing his attention on the target. The entire process is captured on video. You can see the moments when the remote viewer has a part of his awareness at the target.
Now it's a very similar situation, because he starts off happy, calm. I'm just trying, bear with me a minute, I'm just trying to run through the time of this.
I am used to the idea that 9 times out of 10, when I assign a project to remote viewers, the thoughts that I had, the ideas that I had, the preconceptions that I had about what actually happened for that target are going to be wrong.
Daz correctly identifies the main subject, a person in a moving vehicle, and then describes projectiles causing his death.
3 forceful pushes, one from one direction, one from a second, and another from a third direction, all conjunct on one area at one point.
As we know, Kennedy's death was sudden and violent, a moment frozen in the consciousness of humanity. Here is how Daz Smith perceived the event and the outcome, his remote viewing session, on camera, in real time, as it seems to follow what happened after death.
Linear, dark, man-made, slick, I'd say metallic type structure that's moving. So he's moving along like this. And then, but there feels like it, I don't know if he's moving in a different direction, but there's an intersection of energy, motion, and it feels like it's from 2 different places here. So maybe 3 with his forward motion as well, I don't know. And it feels explosive here. So we have this man in a vehicle moving along, happy, intersects with what feels like explosive energy motion from two opposite directions, probably, in an event which causes him to, looks like he loses his life, or go for a transformation that feels like it's like he's losing life. It feels similar to other things like this I've picked up in other targets. It feels like a death situation. I've experienced this before. But there's lots of motion. And there's this linear surface here, but it does turn. It turns in a couple places. So we have this linear surface that this thing's going across. But there are these undulating areas around it. And on one of these is another life. Now this other life is Mel. Again, he's over 30. Now it's a very similar situation, because he starts off happy, calm. I'm just trying to, bear with me a minute, I'm just trying to run through the time of this. Yeah, he's watching, he's observing. And that seems key to him. Looking, observing, watching. And then he goes through the same process. I mean, he's emotional anyway, all the way through this. Pride, proud. But then he observes, witnesses, and I guess is involved in seeing this event, and his emotions just like skyrocket as well. He becomes very emotional, confused, agitated. raised heart rate. And he's worried. Has thoughts about his family. Yeah, but he feels like an outside observer. And I'm not sure if he's alone. But he seems important. So we have a primary male and we have a secondary male. But as I said, I do feel that there's a female presence here at the target as well. But it's not something, it feels like it's not something that I'm meant to focus upon at this stage. Yeah. Okay, so let's try and move on a little bit. Okay. Takes a long time to get this off. That's better. Okay, bear with me while I have a drink of water here. Lots of talking. Okay, so I want to get a feel about the emotions at the start, because it seems to be very emotional, very high stress and emotions. So powerful, human emotions, and they're everywhere. And this is a past event. This is a past event that's very impacting. People were very emotional about it. It upset them. Bear with me a second, I'll try something here. Okay, time. Time seems to slow down. Use a different cutter here, it's not working very well. There seems to be a displacement of time across time. This seems to be like a... It feels like... from start to now, and this feels like a past, the past event, and it feels like the emotions transcend time. It feels like the event transcends time. Timeless. Even to now. People are still emotional about it now. But it seems slow as well. Yeah. At the key point of the event, it feels like time displaces, time slows down. Time, yeah. So this feels like a very powerful human response event. Humans got very emotional about this and still do. Yeah, still do, I would say. So it's an event in the past, very emotional, impacts humans greatly. We get very emotional about it and still do. And because of this and the way it affects us, it feels like it's a target that almost, or not almost, but does transcend time itself. It feels like it crosses all barriers of time. But it also feels like a key part of the target is time slowing down. I don't know what that means at this stage, but it feels like at the moment of, I want to say impact or crash. At the moment of impact crash, the event, time slows. It's almost like you can see time in slow motion there for a short period, only a few seconds, and that feels like an important component. Is that a mindset? Something in the minds of people? That's what I'm going to put, because it came through. Yeah, so there's this slowness of time at the event, transcends time, but a very emotional target here. I can feel clouds of emotion everywhere. So if I'm at the target now, I'm standing in the target, I can feel it. I mean, the emotion starts before what I class, shouldn't call it the main event, but before the event thing that causes the problems. There's emotion there anyway, but all around, as I move slowly through the target to the time of something happening to this central life, emotions change there. There's loads of surprise, loads of shock. I can almost see the shocked faces. Energy levels instantly peak and then they rise. Shock, horror, yeah. It's like people are observing in real time something happening, an event. Something that shocks them to their core. And that reverberates through time, and it still shocks them to this day. They're still shocked. Okay, so let's see what we can pick up on the primary life and what's happening to them a bit more. Because we went through a process where they seem to be going through several states of transformation, I would say. So we're going to look at 14A, the main life. So there's a life, and it definitely feels like, yeah, so life, and there's a man-made structure. And he's inside, and there's movement, motion. This feels forward, and he feels happy. He's moving, he's calm, he's enjoying. That's what it feels like, he's enjoying whatever he's doing. And then there's this instant change. And then there's a new set of feelings here. And this is instantly surprised. Shock. Awe. Astonished. But this feels fast. I mean, we're not talking minutes here, we're talking seconds. Out of the blue. If something happens out of the blue, and this feels like an event, a surprise event. Oh, bear with me. Just had a feeling then. Alright, I'm going to make a note here, because it's a surprise event to him, but maybe not to everyone, but we'll come back to that. Okay, so he's been surprised, shocked. Well, bear with me a sec, I've got to stop the video for a second. Okay, yes, so this was a surprise event for this life. He was just ambling along, enjoying his day, then bang, this happens. Lots of shock, surprise. And then a totally different state. It's almost, again, happens in seconds. So if this is an event, and it feels like an event where a life loses his life, he dies, it feels like a dying event, or so I might be jumping to a conclusion. It feels like a death event, but it feels like a transformation event, and I don't know if anyone can have an instant transformation otherwise. It does feel like other past deaths. So I'm going to have to say it's death. I'm going to say a death event, even though it may be jumping to a conclusion. I'm jumping to this conclusion because it feels so transformative. He's happy, calm here, enjoying his life stuff, but happy in a normal kind of way. Goes through a surprise event that gives him massive amount of surprise, shock, rattles him, heart rate goes up, everything. But this is momentary. We're talking seconds, and it doesn't feel like a long transformation or death. It feels like it's almost instantaneous, and then there's a whole new set of feelings for him. And these are, there's a calmness. It's almost like he was happy before, but then there's this calmness which is almost like silent. It feels slow, but it's not slow. Oh, that's hard. And I'm trying to experience what he's experiencing now. Sparkles of light appear, and these sparkles of light moved in from all different directions, and as they moved closer and closer together, they then clumped and formed into shapes that moved, and these shapes took the appearance of physical people. This is the first time I've experienced something like this, so I actually felt, that the life that I experienced in this death process went from a death almost to another life experience, and from the calmness of another state of being, he met other life forms that coalesced out of the air, really, out of thin air. They kind of formed out of nothing, but they were there. They were everywhere. They were everywhere but also in one place at the same time. It's very hard to put into words. Myself relax into this. There's this just calmness, mindfulness. As I'm there in the zone, I can feel it enveloping me. It's just like everything's all right. And everything that's gone before doesn't matter. Even though it's seconds away, and this person feels like he's left a lot behind, family, situation, all that shock and everything, it's all movement, quick and fast. It feels like it should matter, but it doesn't. It feels like it's accepted. But this feels instantaneous. It feels like a realization. It's meant to be. And he's okay with this. But he's not alone. I would like to say there are others around, but it doesn't feel like others. This is where it's slightly confusing. Bear with me a sec. What it feels like is if he was here, there's a mist all around. And this mist seems to kind of shape into recognizable forms. Bodies, even kind of spiritual type forms. So this does feel like a death event. It feels like a person is, going through a transformative event of being pretty content, happy, alive, going for his day-to-day business. Gets into the middle of a surprise event. Whilst in motion, seems to, I can't tell at this stage, but he goes through a transformative event. It feels like he's dead, where it becomes more mindfulness. It feels detached from everything that's gone before. Not wholly detached, because there are still emotional feelings there for everything, but they don't mean as much. There's a bigger picture. And all around as well, it does feel like buffering clouds of energy all around. I can feel and see it, like steam. Is it like steam? Yeah, like thick steam that moves and shapes. And then out the steam come shaped forms to meet this person.
When Daz finished this amazing session and turned it in for review, he had doubts about it.
Because when you go into such detail and you trust the process, so whatever information the process gives you, and in this case it was the process giving me a passenger in a vehicle, that was essentially being assassinated, and then going through a process where they died and came through to the other side, and there were other beings waiting for him that he communicated with. That's, in some circumstances, that's pretty extreme data. That's not the kind of thing that normal people hear on a normal day-to-day basis. So, writing that kind of thing down and having it recorded live on video and on paper for all the world to see, essentially, in a public project where, you could be wrong, because remote viewers are sometimes wrong. That does cause you doubts. But part of the process, you just have to try to put those doubts to one side and say, this is what I got. I can't help it. This is the data. This is how it came out. This is how I recorded it. We have to take it from there and take it or leave it.
As Dr. Courtney Brown finally reviewed the work, he knew he had the answers to his questions about the assassination itself, but also something much more important on another level.
As a remote viewer, you're always waiting to get your feedback. And that moment you do, and that moment you get the realization and that aha feeling that, yes, you were there, yes, you were on target, you didn't make a complete fool of yourself. That's a nice feeling. It kind of washes over you, It's almost a sense of relief, really. And even more so with these video projects that we do for the Farsight Institute, because when everything's caught on camera, it's all done live. There's no trickery involved. We're all working blind. It's there in the raw for everyone to see. So to get the feedback on these ones is, I would say it's very nice. It's a very nice, and it's relief. It's relief that, you've done your job, the work is there, and we can now get it out to the people to see.
But when he went into the afterlife stuff, that was totally unexpected because it wasn't part of the target. However, in retrospect, it really isn't totally unexpected with respect to Daz Smith. You see, Daz is a very spiritual person. He's very concerned about things that matter with regard to meditation, consciousness, all that type of stuff. So it was natural for him to follow John F. Kennedy after John F. Kennedy physically died. I wasn't thinking about that when I wrote the targets, but when it actually happened for Daz Smith, it made sense.
We're connected with everything in the universe, so all information is possible. So to actually follow a person through a death process, like in this remote viewing, it was a reinforcement for me really, because the project was blind. I didn't know that this project was going to be someone going through a death experience. And you only get to know that when you get the feedback. Although I've been taught and told about other worlds, other universes, and you don't die, your energy just transforms to another state. To actually see and experience that, but through the eyes of another person, and through the eyes of someone as amazing and as known in history as JFK, it was a revelation for me. And yeah, I wouldn't say it's given me total confirmation of life after death, but what it has done is it has seriously opened my eyes to the genuine possibility of it, and all because the remote viewing was done, in a blind experiment.
This session was unexpected and surprising to everyone involved, but provided a glimpse into the possibilities, the potential of remote viewing.
It's not just that it can do amazing things, but the potential is in part not knowing what you'll get. You see, when you have a project and you get stuff that's unexpected, that means there's things that you're going to learn that were not in sort of a pre-programmed idea of what you wanted to learn. It's going to be new, it's going to be surprising, it's going to be alive, it's going to be life. So the potential for remote viewing, we have no idea what the ultimate potential is. It's going to be unexpected. It's going to take us, humanity, the entire planet, in a new direction. A good direction. That's really all I know. It's going to be a good direction.
This to me is just mind-blowing to this day, and I just don't understand why people don't get as excited about it as I do. Because inbuilt within each of us, we have the ability to travel anywhere in time and space. And that thought alone drives me. It's just amazing to think about the potential that we have as human beings, the potential that we have if we just use these gifts that have been given to us, to go anywhere in time and space, to be explorers. I mean, that's all we want to be as human beings, isn't it? We're here to explore the human existence.